I'm the girl who doesn't need a mic. Welcome. If you want to grab a seat, don't be scared and be in the back. We'll get started so we can respect your time. We're going to have Josh speak to kick us off about Xconomy, and then Jim Edwards is here and Angela Shaw. Camille MacGyver, we want to thank you for getting us all together here and having Angela and Jim come in to meet an awesome group from Austin. I was thrilled to be able to email some folks and get everybody together. If you have not gotten a validated parking card, Katie can help you with that. So she'll be looking around to make sure you have 2 cards. You need the card you got when you came in, and then you need the second card to get out. On us, on Xconomy, thank you. And we'll get lunches out to everyone too. And this definitely won't go until 1. We just wanted to give you all a chance to network and chat. It's a nice group of people gathered until 1. So, Josh, do we want to we'll get started. And Josh they brought t-shirts. Capital Factory t-shirts are in the back, which is super cool. Yeah, I like it. Cool. Good to see you.
How are you? Awesome.
Yeah, I guess I just want to respect
All right, well, welcome all of you. I think I recognize pretty much all the faces here. Anybody first time at the Capital Factory? All right, cool. I know most of you have been here a bunch, but welcome. We love hosting things like this, and I'm really glad to welcome Xconomy here and the team. I think one of the most common things I hear from talking to other entrepreneurs and other investors about what does Austin need, what's the next thing to kind of help us keep growing and attracting great people and resonating great things going on here. And press presence is, I think, one of the most common themes that we hear is that there's a lot of great stuff going on here, but it doesn't get covered or it doesn't get picked up because people are focused on kind of either coast. So for me, I think that's what's most exciting about it, seeing Xconomy have a bigger presence here. I know we've already been corresponding with kind of the Houston office and others as in kind of getting a Texas presence. But it's pretty great to know that they're investing in Austin and to see you guys here. So that's what's really exciting for me. Also, I just find, I'm by no means an expert at press or the other components, but it seems like the quality level of the kind of a little bit more focused, a little more boutique firms just is a lot higher, and it does end up being more interesting articles. So excited to have more of that here in Austin. Really glad to welcome you guys here. So I want to introduce Jim, the editor, publisher. I'm still kind of it's my first time meeting, so I'm excited to learn more about it and kind of hand off to him.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. So my name is Jim Edwards. I'm the publisher of Xconomy. We could not have put this together without a few people, so I want to quickly say thanks to a couple of folks. Laura Beck over here, who is the Austin PR tech guru in town, has been instrumental in helping us circulate the folks in this room to get us here. I think we all kind of share the same mission, and that's to raise awareness and visibility of what's going on in Austin technology and life sciences. And that's the role that Xconomy can play. We come to town and we can shine that national spotlight on Austin innovation and tell the rest of the country and beyond those stories of innovation. So first, thank you very much. Laura. Do you want to say a couple of words to the group?
I will at the end if that's cool. That way people don't have to hear me. Some people have heard a lot of me in their lives.
We're going to lose a lot.
I know. There's going to be a mass scale.
I also want to say thank you to Camille MacGyver-Girton. She's in the back there. This whole luncheon is actually her brainchild. She thought this up many months ago and has really been kind of the spearhead for this. So we could not have done that without you, of course, too. There are some special people in the crowd who I'm going to introduce in a little bit. Shah, the editor of Xconomy Texas, who's going to say a few words. We also have a few ex-economists. And we also have our first actual supporter for our mission in Austin. So the mission here is to get boots on the ground in Austin, a full-time dedicated journalist to cover Austin tech and life sciences. We need to put a few things in place to make that happen. And we have Luna Data Solutions as our first partner who has stepped up and supported that effort. We have Dana Jones in the back, so we are on our way. So thank you very much, Dana. Yeah, you can clap. So is everybody here familiar with Xconomy? Do you need me to give you a quick top of the trees? Are you all avid fans and readers tweeting about us every day? Does anybody here know what Xconomy actually is an abbreviation of? It's a shortened way to say something else.
We should know that, shouldn't
No? You should know that. It's the exponential economy. It's a shortened way of saying the exponential economy.
Nice.
So Xconomy, we're a national media organization. It's our feeling that companies within the tech and life science clusters have the greatest potential to grow exponentially. That's where the jobs are going to come from. It'll be those companies that have the biggest impact on regional, state, and national economies. And so all of our media coverage zeroes in just on those two sectors, technology and life sciences. We're currently in 9 markets around the country. I'll kind of dive deeper into that. We did launch Xconomy Texas back in April. The bureau chief sits in Houston, and so really we can't cover the entire state properly, and Austin is a natural destination for us. My role as publisher, one of the primary things that I do is I go around the country and I investigate ecosystems and I determine the level of activity there, I determine what type of media presence is there, and I try and figure out if this is a market that Xconomy should plant a flag in. Austin is a no-brainer for that. There's certainly plenty of activity that the rest of the country should know about, and we feel that from a national standpoint, there certainly is not enough light shown on what's going on here. And that's the role that we think that we can play, is to shine the national spotlight on Austin innovation and write stories every single day by planting a journalist here. You know, deep dive strategy pieces, CEO interviews, and then publish those daily stories out through our national channels. That's what we feel is a missing component in helping Austin become front and center in those national conversations on where those innovation hubs are. So this is our mission in Austin. We want to have boots on the ground. We want to hire a full-time journalist here to do that type of news. And when it comes to it, we want to be the place that people turn to when they want to find out what's happening within the Austin ecosystem as far as life sciences and tech. So we were founded in Boston in 2007. See the X's there. 2008, we expanded into Seattle and San Diego. 2009, we went all in on Detroit, which is a great move on our part, and now they're bankrupt. But we stayed there, and when we originally went to Detroit, you know, it's funny, I spent a lot of time talking about why we went to Detroit. And we had some friends at the Kauffman Foundation who said, hey, you should check out Detroit. There's a real interesting ecosystem there. And we were like, this is 2009. We said, what? You know, the automotive industry was falling into a chasm. But we went there and we determined that there was going to be a rebirth in the automotive industry. There was going to be a rebirth in that part of the country. And the leading factor to that rebirth, we felt, was going to be technology and entrepreneurship. And the US government spent a lot of money and time trying to raise awareness and visibility of stuff there too. And so we kind of timed up with that and have been there ever since. So we're really excited about that X on the map. 2010, we launched in San Francisco and New York. That was a pretty big year for us. And that took us a few years just to get our feet back under us. And then last year, we launched 3 bureaus. We launched Xconomy Texas, Xconomy Boulder, Denver, and Xconomy Wisconsin. So right now we're in 9 and we're growing. You know, those geographies, it's interesting when we look at the data of who reads us in which site. Most people read us not through geographic sites, but through the national channels that we have. And it's also interesting to notice that people who read the geographic sites, only 30% of the people that read a geographic site are actually within that region. So Xconomy Seattle, 70% of that audience is outside of Seattle. So there's a keen interest and market for credible data information about what's going on in these different ecosystems. So to deliver content to our audience in a more effective way, we decided that rather than just have these city sites and state sites, we would chop up our content into content verticals and deliver the news through these national channels. We have 5 right now: a clean tech channel, a health tech channel, startups channel, which I'm sure is keen to a lot of people in this room, a mobile channel, and a life sciences channel. What that means is all of our national coverage that hits and is tagged with one of those monikers gets funneled into that national channel. So if we write a startup profile on a New York mobile company, that story is going to appear on Xconomy New York, the national startups channel, and the national mobile channel. So if you're an investor or an entrepreneur who's just focused on mobile, you can get your news that way. And I think that is going to be a big positive for Austin is when we're writing startup profiles, or we're writing about life science companies or clean tech companies here, the people who read us on these national channels are going to get that news directly to them. So we're talking about national visibility for Austin companies. One of the things that, and Josh kind of alluded to this, is, the most important thing to us is our brand, and our brand is built on our journalists' backs. So we need top-tier A-list journalists breaking these news and writing these stories. We've got amazing, talented journalists. We have a Pulitzer Prize winner in San Diego. Our national IT editor, Greg Wong, out of Boston, has a PhD in computer science from MIT. I mean, they can go as deep as they need to go on the tech, but then also write for a layperson as well. Angela Shah, she leads our efforts here in Texas. She's the editor of Xconomy Texas. She joined us at our launch back in April and has been doing an amazing job. I don't know how she's been covering the entire state from Houston, but she's doing her best to do that. And I don't know if you wanted to share a story or two about kind of the effect and the impact that you've seen already from these hundreds of stories that we've already written about Texas technology that I might add would have otherwise gone unpublished if we didn't have Angela here. So.
True, and I will say that I previously worked at both the Statesman and the Dallas Morning News, and we're in for the business section and the metro section. So these are stories that the papers just can't get to. There's not the staff, there's not the expertise to drill down this deeply. I will say, since we've just been started, it's not even been a year. Recently, I heard from two separate folks about stories that I wrote for Xconomy. A startup that I covered, a health tech startup, recently got an inquiry from a very large company that you've all heard of. I can't go into details, not official, but wanting to do a major investment and or buy them. And the entrepreneur asked, how did you ever hear of us? Because they're very small, very underground. And they said, well, I read you on Xconomy. And it was a direct impact. Another venture capitalist that I speak to quite a bit saw one of our stories and said, tell me more about this company, because you're now one of my funnels for VC. I want to know if you have their contacts, and I pass them on. So it's those sorts of connections that we can make because we know the markets, we know the ecosystems, we know all of you. I haven't met all of you yet, but I do try. Until a biotech company can invent a way to split me in two, and so I can also be based in Austin, which would be awesome. That's part of why we're here, is to make sure that there's another person that can help us do more of what I've been doing, because unfortunately it's only so many hours in the day, and there are great stories, any number of startups that I've written about here already, and we can do more of that. So thank you for coming.
Yeah.
I was just going to do it, and anytime I reach out to Angela with any kind of Austin-based stuff, she's been all over it. And so encourage you to include her here.
Yeah, and I was talking to somebody earlier. It's fantastic when a national media company comes to town like Forbes and does an expose on the city and does that once or twice a year. That's great for the city. But what we've seen since our founding in 2007 is the message that really connects with entrepreneurs and investors is they want to see this constant flow of news coming out of an ecosystem. When they do finally get to see that daily news, that influx of capital, they start to really register with that ecosystem and put it into that conversation on where are the national innovation hubs. It's that constant flow of activity. So, folks like Angela who are writing about Texas innovation every single day and us publishing those out through our national channels sends a message to the investors and the VCs that, hey, this needs to be on our radar. And it's kind of that rising tide lifts all boats mentality. It's great for attracting talent here, it's great for attracting investment here, and it's great for attracting business here. Another unique aspect of Xconomy is what we call the Xconomists. We have actually a couple in the room. Does anyone know what an Xconomist is?
Exponential economist?
Yeah, very correct.
Jeez,
we like the wordplay with the letter X, but only 2 X's, not 3.
Nice.
So when we open up a news bureau in a new market, we reach out to the local luminaries, the CEOs, investors, entrepreneurs who share our mission to raise awareness and visibility of that market on a national landscape. And we reach out to those folks and we say, hey, look, we want to come to town. We want to spotlight this ecosystem nationally. We'd like your support as an Xconomist. And so these folks support us and become what we call Xconomists. They're unpaid editorial advisors. They will occasionally write op-ed pieces for us. They will participate in our events. And most importantly, they will point our editors in the directions of interesting stories that might not be on our radar. Josh is an ex-economist. You can see we've got, Brad Feld is an ex-economist in Colorado. We've got some of the top names and top innovators around the country that support us and put their kind of stamp of approval on the editorial quality of our content and support of our mission. We also have Shah Desarkar here, who fairly recently moved here from Houston and brought his company to Austin. And Sean, I don't know if you want to speak to your experience as an ex-economist and how it's changed your life and made you such a better person.
Yeah, I wouldn't call myself a luminary, but happy to contribute.
I'll do the luminary monikers, yes. So what we want to do with this list is, we want to grow this list in Austin. We want to, compile 20, 25 luminaries in Austin to go with 20 luminaries in Houston and start to grow that network out, because those op-ed pieces go viral really, really fast, and that's a core component of the content that we provide our audience. Any questions? This should be interactive, so don't feel like you just need to sit there.
I'll point out that I couldn't believe we had 3 and a part-time in Blair, ex-economist for Austin, and that's, again, a big reason why you're here. You are luminaries in the city, handpicked by a few of us to be here in the hopes that this looks like a cool opportunity for you to have a voice or give some guidance and thoughts and recommendations to Angela and to Jim. That our city had 3 ex-economists as of today, is why you're here. And it's why I feel so strongly that we need more. Josh Rubin said it earlier, and he'll speak as well, but we're punching below our belt here. The city is growing, but other pieces of the city are not keeping pace.
Yeah. We actually have more, I think. So, Bob Metcalf, Sean, and Josh were up there. Matt Winkler.
I didn't know Sean. I counted Matt, Bob, Josh. Now 4.
Yeah, 4.
And halftime in Blair.
Great. Also part of our mission is to build community. So in each of our markets, we do a series of events throughout the year. Those could be a combination of big public events around topics. They could be, private CEO roundtable dinners around specific topics. We just did one in Houston around the digital oil field with energy luminaries in Houston, which was very successful. And then we actually have a big healthcare summit coming up in Houston where we're flying people in from all over the country. So our plan would be to build some community around events and partner with the local teams here and maybe see what we can do to enhance their events through our national network. You may be interested in who reads us and how many people read us. I don't know if that's of interest to you. We have about 300,000 unique monthly readers, 2.5 million page views a month. To give you some context as to how many of those innovators out there are reading us every month. The most important thing to us, I said, is our brand, and our brand is built through our audience. So the most important thing to us is not the quantity of our audience, but the quality of our audience. And so we measure ourselves against, the top national media companies in the country. We feel really strong about the brand that we've built and the people who read us. As you can see, we skew, very highly educated, very affluent, very senior level within organizations, and getting younger and younger, making me feel older and older. Yeah, almost 3/4 of our audience is under the age of 45, which is probably not a shock to you guys because people are starting these companies younger and younger. And now we can up those 300,000 monthly page views by at least 22, right? Because now we have some new fans. When we opened the bureau in Texas, we landed in Houston primarily because just about all of the support was coming from Houston. The energy sector in Houston and the life science sector in Houston was really what brought us there. We need to expand our reach and get boots on the ground here to cover tech and become more focused on technology. These are the folks that were instrumental in our launch and helped finance the launch of Xconomy Texas. Rice University is at the top. They reached out to us and they said, you have got to get down here to Houston. There is crazy innovation happening in the Texas Medical Center. I did not know that. None of our staff knew that. In fact, very few people outside of the state of Texas probably know that, because I don't think the state does a great enough job of telling those stories of innovation outside the state. So when Governor Perry earmarks $3 billion to make the TMC the leading cancer prevention institute in the world, that's awesome. But I didn't know that. I should have known that. Boston should know that. San Francisco should know that. Berlin should. I mean, everybody, the world should know that if that's the mission, right? And so, we can come in and write these hundreds of stories every year that would otherwise go unpublished to that global audience that we have. Of those 300,000 unique monthlies that we have, 25% are actually outside the US. So we do have a fairly global audience.
Any concentration on the outside US, in particular Europe or South America?
Good question. The top 5 countries are Canada, the UK, India, Germany, and Australia. And who can tell me the top 5 states of US readership? Where do you think, what's the biggest state readership you think we have?
California.
California is 1.
New York.
New York is 3, Massachusetts is 2. Maryland. Washington is 4.
Texas?
Texas is 5. And Texas was 5 before we launched Xconomy Texas. So there was a desire for Texans to know what was going on outside there in the innovation ecosystems. So, why are we here? What is it that we want to do? How can we get this thing started and off the ground? The typical bureau runs at $150,000 a year. That gets us a full-time journalist on the ground writing stories every day about Austin innovation. That also gets us a freelance budget to cover stories that our full-timer can't get to, whether that's events or different trends or maybe making trips down to San Antonio. It allows us to broaden our reach a little bit, and it also supports a few events a year, 2 to 3 events a year. You can see there's not a lot of profit in there. We are a for-profit company, but we are not going to be a billion-dollar company. We want to fund innovation and keep it open access and free for everybody. That's important. We are not a subscription-based company. It's all free. We feel like if we were to write a robotics article and a 16-year-old kid is reading that in his kitchen, and if we charge them $1 or $3 paywall to read the rest of that article, he's not going to do it or she's not going to do it, and that would be an inhibitor to innovation. And what we want to do is stimulate innovation. So keeping our content free for everybody is really important. And so to do that, we typically put these annual partnerships together with universities, with technology companies, with service providers, and provide them branding and advertising and sponsorships and connections in association for funds that allow us to hire A-list talent on the ground. So, with that, I open it up for questions.
Can we stand the scrutiny?
Can you say that?
Can we stand the scrutiny?
Can Austin stand the scrutiny?
Yeah.
I sure hope so.
All right, well, I mean, it's your decision to work with us, so
Yeah.
it's a two-way street.
Okay. The Austin ecosystem is important on the national landscape. We're already coming in here and trying our best to cover it through the resources that we have. The partnerships that we put in place to fund this are kind of twofold. Yes, there's a philanthropic side to it, right? Having that national spotlight on Austin is great for the city. Right? It's great for attracting investment, attention, talent. There are also organizational benefits for your organizations. We are a for-profit. This isn't a nonprofit ask. This is a way for us to work with you, like you said, and to construct a partnership that returns real value for you. Above and beyond the philanthropic side of, hey, Xconomy wrote 300 articles last year about technology and life science innovation that otherwise would never have gone published, that would have not brought the attention of the eyeballs here. We wouldn't have economists here writing for us as well. So there's that, but there's also great benefits to your businesses for partnering with us too. And yeah, we would like to come and work with you to create those in a custom format.
Jim, I have a question. So I hear a lot of how VCs view Texas and Austin in particular as different, but since you're all over the country, how does innovation differ here? How do people here differ versus the rest of the country that you cover? What are you seeing as what's unique, or is there anything unique?
I think Austin is at a really interesting place, kind of like an inflection point.
Some say weird, so.
I grabbed a T-shirt at the airport. And so I think that and we talked about this a little bit with Josh too, about the timing. It's it's kind of like getting ready to really, hockey stick up, and that's different than a lot of the other ecosystems around the country that are either more mature or have had harder times. You've got anchor companies here that talent can fall back on. You've got great accelerators and incubators here. Austin to us is also unique because it's part of a state bureau that we can kind of use funds from different parts of the state and shift them around where they need to be. And it's also, I think, competitive. I've noticed a lot of competition, intrastate competition between Dallas and Austin and Houston. And that's unique too.
Hey Jim, you mentioned, you highlighted biz journals up there as one of your competitors.
Yep.
How do you think about when you go into a market, your relationship with the people that cover things locally? Here you've got, I guess, primarily the Statesman and Austin's Business Journal.
Yep.
Kind of their mandate versus yours. Can you compare and contrast a little bit?
Sure. We see ourselves as complementary. We are not writing for an Austin audience per se. We are writing for a national audience. We will not cover everything that they might cover, but the type of story that we do is magazine format, multiple page story, just kind of a deeper dive story. So it's CEO interviews, it's strategy pieces, it's startup profiles. We tend to get feedback, like local feedback, where, and I read the local business journals in Seattle and stuff too. And that's important because I can get a quick landscape of what's going on. But the best feedback that we receive from folks is, hey, we read the business journal and we read Xconomy. When we have a meeting with somebody, we go to Xconomy, we go in the archives, and we dig up that story, that strategy piece, because that's what prepares us for the meeting. The quality and the type of journalism that we do is very different. And I think that the lens through which we write is very different. We're writing for our national and global audience. That's the role we come here to play. We think that's good for the Austin Business Journal. That's good for the American Statesman because inevitably that's going to attract more companies here and provide more coverage opportunities. We're seeing more and more people move online from a media standpoint. Our print competitors have struggled monetizing what they do, and 15 years ago, the American Statesman probably had dedicated tech journalists, dedicated bio journalists, dedicated clean tech journalists. That doesn't happen anymore. Mm-hmm. Now you've got one journalist who covers finance, real estate, tech, and can't get to what they need to get. And so that's what's brought us here. The fact that there's all of this activity and coverage that the rest of the world should be hearing about and are not. Now, our 30% of our Texas audience will be in Texas, so that's great. They'll get to read about it too. But that's not our mission. Our mission is to shine a national spotlight on these ecosystems and to do that in Austin.
Perfect. Have you secured the 150? Are you actively looking for it? And then follow up, have you talked to University of Texas?
So Bob Metcalf is an ex-economist, and so yes, he's on our list. We're just now starting this. This is basically day one of the effort. Luna Data Solutions, Huzzah, has stepped up in support of this, so we have our first dollars in, and that's the goal. Now, does that mean if we don't hit 150, are we not going to launch an Austin presence? Doesn't mean that. It just means that right now, 150 looks like that's what we need to cover this region the way it deserves to be covered.
So when Camille and Jim and I brainstormed this, the regular way to go into a market is either through, Cohen and Feld begging you to come, or through working with service providers in town to find the funding first. And we turned it on its head because it's Austin and we're different. And we thought this group was important to reach first and talk to first. And that's sincere and it's real. And transparently, it'd be great if someone here wanted to fund something or had somebody who wanted to fund something or could help the cause. But more than that, this was about getting buy-in and belief and understanding and education from the people that we know are the influencers in town. You're going to pass on the word. You're going to know something about Xconomy. When someone asks you now, hopefully you'll feel good about it and value to it. And we need you, many of you in the room, to be Xconomists. Because again, that's a mark of validation and belief in it. So we made a deliberate decision to do Austin a little different, because we're different and we're weird. and we thought that this group was really important for you to understand what this is all about. Why did I weasel my way into this? So most people in the room know me. I'm Laura Beck. I used to run Porter Novelli Austin for 10 years here in town, and before that I was in Boston for 4 years. So I've been doing PR since 91, and the last 4 years I've been retired. Well, again, most people in this room know that's complete bullshit, and I still do some PR consulting, but much less and a lot more time with my girls. But when this came up, when Camille told me about Xconomy, I'm like, I have to be involved, because the pain the startup companies I represent have is so indicative of why we need this. I've worked with Wade before I love him. I've worked with him way back from when I was in Boston, but he won't talk to me or do a story on me unless there's a Boston angle. So in my 14 years now in Austin, I've only had one Xconomy story until recently, and that was Calzada's funding because our friends at Flybridge invested in them. That's a problem. There's a geographic focus to Xconomy to organize and to, allocate resources. We haven't had that attention from them. Angela just gave some lovely attention to Austin Technology Incubator at their 25th through a contributed piece from Isaac, and hopefully he'll be an Xconomist soon. In town, you nailed it. We have the Statesman and Lori, and we all love her, but do you even know she's part-time? And Kirk retired. And we've got Brian, but he really wants to do more gaming and consumer, and we've got Omar, but he's really consumer. And once in a while, Barry will fill in the holes because Lori's off with her kids, because she should be. And we've got Christopher, who's one of the hardest working guys in town, who ticks off a lot of people because he trolls the SEC files. But that's the way he's getting stories. But both of them, their goal and their purpose of their coverage is Austin. It's to cover jobs, hiring, space, new real estate, milestones of the company in terms of 20 years, 10 years, 15 years. Not what your product is, not what your technology is, not the strategy of your business. If you got VC funding in town, even 500,000, you can get some attention and coverage, and maybe you can get TechCrunch to give you some love. But only with that VC funding carrot to hang. We've got to have somebody who cares about the businesses and what they're doing. And it can't be Laura Lorak, because she is working harder than anyone I know through love, pure love of this region. But Silicon Hills News is but one thing. And we're making moves in the right direction. Josh, Ruben, if you're willing to chat for a second, was CNN national here because he loves Austin, which is, by the way, why Stacy's here. Everyone wants to pitch Stacy of Austin Stories. That's not her beat. Once a year, she'll do a story on 10 companies to watch around South by Southwest. She has a beat that's cloud. If you fit into cloud, sweet. And Tom Cherider will never even reply to one of my emails, so I'm not worthy. None of the companies I represent will get to venture beat through him. I gotta go through Matt. Anyway, Josh, I don't know if you're willing to chat for a second about your shift to be able to focus on Austin, which is great, but that there's room for many others and we need them.
As many of you know and some of you don't, I was in charge of something called the CNN Express Bus, which was basically a mobile bureau. I traveled around the country covering elections, large-scale events, a little bit of everything. CNN's decided to sell the bus, so rather than make me move to Atlanta or fire me outright, they created a new job for me, and I'm now the CNN producer, the CNN Austin producer. So,
watch your emails, buddy.
now,
You
that
just
doesn't mean
screwed yourself
to be
there.
fair, that doesn't mean I'm going to be in Austin 24/7. I'm going to Laredo on Friday to do something on heroin. But what it does show is that Austin matters. And like Laura said, for a city as culturally important nationally as Austin has become, 2 articles a year about the 10 best reasons why you should live in Austin simply don't cut it. So, from my perspective, this is great, because if the startup community and the entrepreneurial community in this town invested a fraction of their energy trying to attract the media like they attract developers, entrepreneurs, engineers, this city would truly be the international, national city that we all know that it is. You are not a big boy city unless you have big boy media. And Austin, in a lot of ways, is the king of everywhere that is in Silicon Valley, New York City, or Boston. Indianapolis, Tampa, Cincinnati, Madison, Wisconsin, Milwaukee, they want to be us. And y'all are always complaining that too many people are moving to Austin. Stop telling people that there's so many good things here, they're gonna move here. You know how to prevent that? Make other places better. How do you make other places better? Your media exporting your culture. So this competition is a great thing.
Thank you.
Let me ask a question. I've been a subscriber for a while, and
Thank
join.
you.
And but you're sort of in the categories, biosciences, et cetera, apps, et cetera. What about, I mean, I'm a big fan of MIT's technology review and the new emerging things each year. How provocative will you be in terms of crossover, disruptive discussions about new things that don't fit your boxes?
Yeah. The short answer is very provocative. It's interesting you mentioned technology review. So our CEO and founder was editor-in-chief of Technology Review. Wade Roush was with, all of our key editors around the country in Boston, San Francisco, came actually from Technology Review. And we're starting to write more op-ed pieces to go in, which are those more, look, we will write the news however our editors see fit to write the news. So, if Rice University gives us a whole bunch of money to do something in Austin and Rice University does something horrible that we deem newsworthy, we're gonna write about it. So editorial independence is really independent of it for us. So we're gonna write the good, the bad, and the ugly. And that just adds to our credibility and to the credibility of our partners, the way we see it. We've launched a new site called Experience, which is more of a provocative, and that's Wade Roush's column. It's more of a provocative B2C review, kind of like a weekend section of the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times. That is much more provocative. And for the most provocative pieces of content, we look for, not from our editors who are supposed to be unbiased, but we look for those pieces from our ex-columnists. We look for, the Joshua Bears and the Brad Felds and the Bob Metcalfs to write those pieces for us. And we encourage them to do it. And we get pitched all the time for great, interesting articles that get up in the Economist forum piece of what we do. And so, that's a kind of core component of what we do. So I would say, along with what you're reading now, the box you should check in RSS feeds would be the Xconomist forum, because you get all of that stuff directly feeded into yourself as well. Yeah.
Well,
Any other questions?
Oh, I forgot the most important housekeeping. Please grab lunch whenever. And again, Katie in the back has parking validation. If you have your parking ticket, she'll give you another one to add. But the feeding part, we wanted to feed you guys. So sorry, everyone's looking at us.
So do you have a journalist identified yet?
We do not have a journalist in Austin identified yet.
So just rough timing, how do you think this rolls out? Obviously the money's important.
Yeah, once we get close to the goal, we'll hire a journalist, and usually it's 2 weeks of queuing up stories before we kind of announce that new journalist, and we'll just be promoting the heck out of the fact that we're putting boots on the ground in Austin. So, it's not going to happen before South by Southwest, but the goal is for it to happen as soon as possible. I came down here from Seattle. I'll be back here every week until we get this done. Angela's working her tail off, trying to cover the state from Houston. Camille is part of the team on the ground in Austin. Laura is helping out in Austin. We're going to be leaning on our ex-economist, Shah, in Austin. So, we don't want to go slow. We want to get things rolling and build the bureau out. And once Austin is a success, then we can continue to move it into Dallas or San Antonio, continue to grow things for the state. First step is Austin.
You might be able to do a lot of informational interviews and recruiting of press at South by, though. They're all here. It's a great way to say you can stay here now more than 10 days a year.
That's true. Yes.
To dovetail on that, do you have a preference for someone that's already local and knows the scene, or for someone that comes in with fresh eyes and kind of takes stock of the environment themselves?
It kind of depends. So the style, and Angela will attest to this, and I'm not on the editorial side of the company, but the style that our writers need to follow is more magazine format. So we're not rewriting press releases, right? So we need to be able to get CEOs on the phone and to dive deep into the tech behind what their companies are about. So they need to be experienced at being fast-paced because it's daily news, deep dive, and we've done it both ways. We've hired inside a city with somebody who's already plugged in, and we've also hired a person and that's planted in the city. So we were founded in 2007. I started in 2009, and from 2009 to 2010, every meeting I had, people asked me, "Why aren't you in San Francisco? Why aren't you in San Francisco? That's where it all is, San Francisco." The answer was we couldn't find the right talent on the ground to build the bureau around. So finally what we did is we took our top Boston guy, and we moved him to San Francisco. That's Wade Roush. And he's been really successful. So it just kind of depends on the ecosystem. Great. Well, with that, I'll let you guys eat lunch.
Yeah.
You can find me or Camille or Laura or Angela. Will be around for a while, and we're looking forward to getting this going. So
Sincerely, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Your time is also precious, so really appreciate you spending time with us.